Once upon a time, there lived a woman who never bathed her son. Right from when her son was born, Motunde never bathed him like other children, whilst the other women in the village prided in the tradition of bathing their newborn babies in front of their huts. Motunde never partook in the tradition. After she gave birth to her baby, the people waited for days, but Motunde never came out with a calabash of water like the others. Instead, she kept her baby hidden inside her hut. At first, the villagers whispered. They assumed that Motunde was lazy, whilst others said that she was possessed. Soon, the whispers turned into open mockery. Her child must stink like a dead rat. The women laughed as they gossiped and pondered on why Motunde refused to bathe her son. The children of the village avoided her hut as their parents warned them not to go close to the child. Still, Motunde never flinched. She never apologized and never explained to anyone why she decided never to bathe her son. At night, when the baby cried, Motunde held him tightly and whispered, "My son, endure for a little while. When the time is right, they will all understand." Her words only deepened the villagers' suspicions. The people called her son an abomination. They warned their children not to play near him. They even advised the village elders to banish Motunde before her child brought ruin upon them all. But Motunde, calm and unbothered, kept living her life as though their insults meant nothing. She bought perfumes and burned sweet incense around her hut, yet she never for once touched her son with water. People began to call her a witch who was using her son for dark powers. Her neighbor Mina even came out to claim that she saw Motunde's son floating in her hut one night when she came out to ease herself. She claimed that on so many occasions she had seen Motunde cast out dead birds from her hut. In fact, she called them evil as she pushed for the villagers to banish them from the village. Motunde did everything possible to defend herself, stating that her reason for not bathing her son was not born out of evil intentions, but the people did not listen. They banished them out of the village to live in the middle of the forest, where no one dared to tread. Motunde gathered her few belongings and strapped her little boy on her back. She walked silently into the thick forest as her heart bled in pain. The villagers jeered as she left, calling her a witch and the mother of an abomination. Mina, her neighbor, stood boldly at the front as she smirked in triumph. She could not wait to finally possess Motunde's land, a land that she had admired for years and wished to have. Mina never saw Motunde's baby float in the air as she had claimed. In fact, she never saw anything suspicious. All she did was capitalize on everyone's suspicion to send Motunde away, so as to avail her the opportunity to take over her land. While she jubilated, Motunde wept as she walked into the forest, her spirit broken as her feet were heavy with sorrow. Motunde built a small hut in the forest where she decided to raise her son alone, away from the cruelty of her own people. She watched as her son Niyi grew into a very strong and healthy boy. Although he had never been bathed, his skin shone as though the sun itself had kissed it. Niyi was filled with unusual strength. He single-handedly lifted heavy rocks and killed animals with his bare hands. He was his mother's protector in the forest, as no harm ever came to them. His mother Motunde warned him never to set his foot in the village. "This is our home now, and under no condition should you set your foot in the village," she said to Niyi, who shook his head and promised never to disobey his mother's commands. However, one morning, whilst Niyi was hunting in the forest, he heard a loud scream and decided to follow the sound. He bent his back low and weaved his way through the leaves as he made his way to the sound. A few minutes passed and Niyi arrived at the edge of the forest, close to the village, where he saw a woman yelling angry at a beautiful young woman who she told to clear out a huge portion of land. Niyi stood back and watched as the young woman broke down in tears and began to work. When night came, the young woman returned home, leaving a huge portion untouched. Niyi spent the night clearing the land. He saw the tears of the young woman and knew that he had to help. Niyi remembered how his mother was humiliated cast out and made to suffer. So he quietly cleared the land until dawn, his hands working like the wind as his body glistened with strange power. By the time the sun rose, the land looked as though an army had labored through the night. The young woman, whose name was Aduke, came back and froze in shock, her eyes widened as she beheld the perfectly cleared land. She dropped to her knees in tears, thanking the heavens for helping her, for she had prayed the night before that a miracle would save her from shame. When her stepmother arrived and saw the land cleared, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Who helped you?" she asked Aduke, who swore that she had no help. From the edge of the forest, Niyi watched silently as Aduke's stepmother accused her of lying. Her stepmother's eyes darted around, searching for footprints or signs of help. "You dare mock me, girl? You are too weak to do this alone. Who helped you?" she thundered as Aduke shook her head, insisting that she walked all night, but her trembling voice betrayed her fear. From behind the trees, Niyi clenched his fist. He longed to step out and defend her, but his mother's warning rang in his ears. Never set foot in the village, so he remained calm, watching as Aduke's stepmother raised a stick to strike her. Niyi stood back and watched as Aduke cried out for help, his mother's warning still echoing in his mind as he held himself back, trying not to interfere. But deep within his heart, he knew that one day his silence would no longer be enough. So he continued to lurk in the shadows, ensuring not to make his presence known. Whenever Aduke's stepmother gave her impossible tasks, Niyi would return at night to finish them. Aduke's prayers of gratitude each morning filled the forest, and although she never saw him, her voice became the comfort of his hidden world. Still, Niyi never revealed himself. His mother's warning held him like chains, but destiny never hides forever. One fateful afternoon, whilst Aduke was fetching water from the stream, her stepmother pushed her into the stream and watched her struggle to stay afloat. She knew Aduke could not swim, so she left her there, knowing that she would not survive. Aduke screamed out for help, her hands reaching for the bank of the river, but the current dragged her deeper as she fought for her life. Deep in the forest, Niyi heard her cry and ran as fast as he could, crashing through the trees. As he arrived the stream, he found her drowning, and without a second thought, he leapt into the water. The stream swallowed him whole, but as his body touched the water, the prophecy long buried awoke. The entire stream dried up, and all the plants withered before his eyes. Niyi was so terrified, he dropped Aduke by the riverbank and ran back into the forest, his heart pounding as he wondered what he had done. For the first time in his life, Niyi had disobeyed his mother's command, and the world itself seemed to react with terror. When Motunde saw him stumble into their hut trembling, she knew immediately what had happened. Niyi fell to his knees as he began to speak. "Mother, the river dried up the moment I touched it. Even the plants withered. How is this possible, mother?" Motunde shook her head slowly as she began to speak. "Long ago, a strange woman told me that you carry the power to reveal the true foundations of this village. But for that power to awaken, you would have to meet the one whose tears will water the earth again. Not just any tears, but tears born out of joy and not sorrow." Back at the river, however, the villagers gathered as they stared at the dry river in disbelief, pondering on what could have happened. Some went on their knees crying that the gods are angry with the village. News of it got to Aduke's stepmom, who rushed out in fear, terrified that people would find Aduke's body inside the river. She arrived the river, but Aduke was nowhere to be found. All she met was a dry river, which was filled with water moments earlier. Aduke's stepmother could not help but tremble in fear. She arrived home moments later and met Aduke sitting by the fire, her body wet from the incident. Her heart nearly stopped as she approached Aduke to know how she was alive. "You are alive," she said to Aduke, who looked at her but said nothing. Aduke's stepmother could not help but tremble in fear. She knew the river had swallowed the girl, but yet, here she was, alive and well as if nothing had happened. A cold shiver ran through her spine as she sensed that something beyond her control had begun to stir. So that night, whilst Aduke slept, her stepmother decided to finish what she had started. She crept into Aduke's room with a rope in her hand. Her plan was to strangle Aduke quietly before morning and lie to the people that Aduke slept and died in her sleep. However, as she leaned over Aduke's bed, a sudden wind swept through the hut, lifting her up from the ground and hitting her hard across the floor. Aduke's stepmother dropped the rope on the floor, her heart racing as she picked herself up from the ground and ran to her room in terror. By morning, Aduke woke up to find the strange rope by her bed. She walked to her stepmother's room and met her still on the bed. Her entire body was paralyzed and her eyes struck with blindness. Aduke wondered what could have happened. She stood there confused as her half-sister Bumi walked in and met her mother blind and paralyzed. She screamed so loudly that the whole village gathered. "Look at my mother," she cried, pointing at her mother who lay there, stiff on the bed, her eyes wide open but clouded like mist. "She was fine yesterday, and now she is blind and paralyzed. This is the work of Aduke. She is a witch," Bumi said as whispers rose like the hiss of snakes. Some villagers even revealed that they saw Aduke leaving the stream when it dried up, her body soaked with water. "She is a witch," they spat as fingers pointed at Aduke from every corner of the crowd. "She has bewitched her stepmother, crossed our river and made our rivers to dry." The chant grew louder as a sea of voices rose up against her. Young men picked up sticks, eager to prove their loyalty by destroying her. Aduke stood frozen, her body trembling, her eyes filled with tears as she cried aloud, "I am innocent, I swear." Aduke cried, revealing that all she had done was suffer in silence, but her words only fueled the anger of the people. An old man stepped forward in that moment and began to speak. "Did you not hear that she cleared a huge parcel of land overnight? No human can ever do such," he said as he called her a witch. The people roared in agreement. Some shouted for her to be dragged to the village square, whilst others clamored for her to be stoned to death before her curses spread further than expected. As they began to stone Aduke by the village square, ignoring her cries and pleas, something strange began to happen. The skies grew dark as though night had swallowed day. Thunder rumbled across the heavens as a great wind surrounded Aduke where she knelt, wailing and trembling. The villagers, who moments before raised their sticks and stones, stumbled backwards in terror. The wind grew so fierce that no one could step close to her. They stood from a distance and watched as the voice of the chief priest pierced through the storm as he began to speak. "Fools!" he shouted angrily. "You have brought this suffering upon yourselves. How dare you stone the innocent and embrace the guilty? Now you tremble at the fruit of your own deeds. The gods are with her, and anyone who dares to harm her will meet an unusual fate." The people fell silent, their bodies shaking as they looked at each other in confusion. The chief priest lifted his hands to the sky as he continued to speak. "This girl you call a witch is the answer to your prayers. Only her joy and happiness will restore this land to its glory. Until her heart is healed, your rivers will remain dry, the skies will remain dark, and you all will begin to die one after the other," he said to the people, who dropped their stones and fell at Aduke's feet pleading for mercy. "Forgive us, special one. We promise to make things right. Please restore our land and do not strike us in your anger," they said to Aduke, whose anger refused to wane. Her tears fell like rain onto the dust, yet it brought no healing to the land. For though the people knelt before her, she remembered their cruelty, the days they mocked her, the hunger that she endured, her stepmother's wickedness, and the stones that they had just hurled at her. "They call me special now, yet they spat at me when I was broken. They plead for mercy now, yet they rejoiced in their suffering. Can gifts or crowns erase the scars that they have burned into my heart?" Aduke asked herself as her heart grew angrier. The villagers bowed as they continued to wail. Even the king removed his crown and laid it at her feet. "Take my throne," he said. "Sit where I sit, rule where I rule. Only smile again, that the gods may smile on us." But Aduke turned her face away. "I do not desire your throne, my king. I do not seek your crown. I can't force my heart to feel joy when all I've known is sadness and pain." Days passed, and the people did everything to please her. They clothed her in the finest fabrics, sang her praises, cooked her the sweetest meals, and offered her riches. Yet her eyes remained clouded with sorrow, and the skies remained dark as night. Crops refused to grow, children cried from hunger, and the rivers remained dry, as the people all whispered amongst themselves in fear, wondering what would happen if Aduke never smiled again. Aduke's half-sister Bumi, however, could not understand how things had turned so quickly. Her heart burned with envy, as she could not believe that the same sister who she had mocked and called worthless was now being treated like a queen. Wherever Aduke went, people bowed, bringing her gifts and praises. Even the king himself had surrendered his throne to her. One night, Bumi sat in the corner of her hut, her eyes flashing with anger as she whispered, "Why should Aduke be the savior of the land? If she is gone, the people will worship me as her sister. I want to be the one they worship. I want to rule the land and take over the throne," she said as she devised a plan to take Aduke down. That evening, as Aduke walked down the path that led to the stream, Bumi trailed her from behind. She arrived at the edge of the stream, which was now dry with drought. Her voice soft as she began to speak. "Spirits of the forest, you who cleared my farm when I was mocked, you who rescued me from the stream when death called, I thank you today, for without you, I would have perished." Her words floated over the water, innocent and pure, but Bumi's ears twisted them into venom. She quickly rushed to the village and returned with some elders, who she brought to witness everything with their own eyes. When they arrived, they met Aduke kneeling by the cracked riverbed, her palms lifted as she whispered some thanks to the one who saved her. Bumi pointed and roared, "You see, she speaks with dark forces. She is evil and should not be allowed to deceive the people." The elders drew closer as they pondered on what to do. One of the elders reminded the others of what the chief priest said about Aduke. "If we anger her further, our land will perish," he said as Bumi fumed in anger. "If you all are afraid of her, I'm not. I will take her down, and you all will have me to thank for saving our village," she said as she charged towards Aduke with a knife. Just as she approached Aduke, Niyi, who had been lurking in the shadows for all this time, emerged from the forest and stepped between them. "Enough," he said, his voice steady as he began to speak. Bumi fell to the ground confused as she stared at Niyi in disbelief. "Who are you?" an elder whispered as Niyi introduced himself to them as Motunde's son, the child who they cast away so many years ago. Everyone opened their mouths in shock as they tried to understand what Aduke had to do with the son of the banished woman. Before Niyi could say another word, Bumi accused Aduke of conniving with their enemy to destroy the village. As Niyi turned back to look at Aduke, Bumi lunged forward with the knife as she tried to strike him. Her entire body froze as she fell to the ground, unable to move. The people stood there, shocked, as they watched in complete terror. The skies were still as dark as night. Although it was only evening, Niyi stood tall, his voice roaring like thunder. "I am the one you cast away. I am Motunde's son, the child you mocked, the boy you called an abomination." The crowd gasped, and even the elder fell back in fear. Bumi lay frozen on the ground, her knife inches away from Aduke. "I saved Aduke twice from the hands of the evil woman, who made her cut bushes at night and pushed her into the river. I was the one who cleared the bushes and saved her when her life was almost cut short." Aduke looked at him stunned. She could remember him lifting her out of the river, but the memory was so faint that she thought that it was a dream. Aduke, for the first time, smiled from her heart. The skies, which had been dark for weeks, cleared as the sun pierced through the darkness. "It is him," the chief priest said, revealing that only Niyi could loosen the sorrow from her heart. It was then that Motunde walked out of the forest and began to speak. She revealed to them that when she was pregnant, an old man approached her with a revelation that changed her life forever. He told her that her child was no ordinary boy, and that Motunde should never beat her son until he meets the woman whose tears will water the earth again. The man warned that the child would die if Motunde ever bows to pressure and baits the child, for the evil spirits residing in the waters know that her son will be their undoing. If he ever baits in water, they will claim him and make sure that he does not survive. So Motunde, for all these years, clung to the warning like a mother clings to her child. Niyi opened his eyes wide in shock. He now understood why his mother never bathed him and why the rivers dried when he jumped in to save Aduke. Their presence in the water killed the evil that resided within, drying up their powers in that instant. As Motunde finished speaking, her eyes caught sight of Bumi on the floor. The bracelet in her hand looked so familiar as she asked if it belonged to Mina. Bumi shook her head as Motunde froze, unable to believe what was happening. Bumi turned out to be the daughter of the woman whose lies led to their banishment, the same woman who lied to the people that she saw her son floating in her hut. It was the same Mina who almost killed Aduke by the stream and planned to strangle her in her sleep. Motunde could not believe how much damage one woman had done, first to Motunde and then to Aduke herself. The king then stepped forward and decreed that Niyi and his mother were now a part of the royal family, as demanded by village tradition. According to the traditions of the land, if a king banishes the innocent and later finds that they were innocent, he is forever indebted and must adopt them into the royal family as a form of compensation to the aggrieved. That was how Niyi and his mother became a part of the royal family. Bumi and her mother were banished, and Niyi got to know Aduke better. Their destinies were tied, and it wasn't long before they fell deeply in love with each other. The prosperity of the village was now hinged on the happiness of the people who the villagers once despised. So the entire village apologized to them and did things to always make them happy. The happier they were, the more prosperous the village became. Even the king obeyed and honored them, and the people learned their lesson the hard way, never to scorn a person because of their differences. From that day, the people cherished Niyi and gathered Aduke's joy like a sacred flame. The rivers ran again, crops bowed heavy with grain, and children grew up hearing the tale of how a smile healed a land. Niyi and Aduke got married beneath clear skies, and the village prospered, reminded forever that mercy is stronger than rumor and love more powerful than any curse. I hope you enjoyed this story.